Hello, I'm Lynette, and welcome to the studio today, where we are going to be exploring the beauty of minimal marks in abstract art. And do you know that feeling that when you want to do more and you want to keep adding more, maybe even saying more? Sometimes the most powerful statement comes from knowing when to stop, when to let the white space speak. And when we create together today, we'll discover how less can truly be more, both on our canvas and in our daily lives. Come join me. I'm going to show you some of the things that I do with minimal art. And a big thing is maybe how to stop, when to stop. This is one idea, just putting something on the paper and just move the paint around. Might not like it, try it again. That doesn't really look good. Don't like that. Let's try that again, or let's try this. This has potential. Let's see if something happens if I brush it. Now, it looks like there's just a natural line there from my first one, so I'm just going to see what it looks like with a brush straight through. That certainly has possibilities. Let's just leave that for now. Well, no, you know, I don't know if I can leave that. I just want, even though it's minimal, a lot of times I like this little thin line. I like the big areas, the light, the dark, so we've got the values in there. And sometimes I just want to put one more line in just to activate that space a little bit more. Let's set that aside. And this one, which I used really like a monoprint, let's try something and just pull these papers across. Not as exciting, but that's okay. We'll just leave that for now. So with this, now I'm just going to try some minimal strokes. See how it works. See what my brush is like. Maybe a little bit more water on it. A little bit more water in the Now let's try one that, using a little bit smaller brush, see what happens with these marks. And it's really is just flowing, seeing what I like. See, this one is not how I would like it. I would like to see some sort of difference in the lines. That's just me. For yourself, you may like it all the same. I want to do something a little bit different. And let's try this. Better. Let's see what I can do with larger strokes. Oops. Okay, so that's now going to become part of the composition. Can something that simple be a finished piece? Has potential, but what I like about this is the negative space, or the white space here, dances really nicely with the black. And if you take a look at it, all the negative space is different shapes, which adds interest to it. Also with the black, they're different sizes. Even though it's one brush and one stroke, it has some difference in it. It has some difference just because it's not a solid color. It has these little extra textures added to it immediately. So this one has, there's certain ways it looks better. But I think there needs to be just still a few more touches to it. But I like the composition of it. Now I'm coming back to this, just to show you how at times I may not use the full painting, even though I really do like, it's almost like cameras, and when you're doing photography, you take full frame, as what it was called when I was in university, and then we had to know how to crop it and how to do it with the full frame, and how to make it look good. And I don't actually mind this, but if I were to frame it, and say if I took a 6x6 and looked at the areas that I like, those have real possibilities, because I like the swoosh and the action happening, and then I like the more static aspects of just the blobs of paint. And again, I look for the difference. I look for contrast. I look for what's happening with the size of it, how they're all blending together. And then if I were to go back to this one, could I crop it smaller? Maybe. Maybe the balance, the harmony, that could work. I need to cover this up. This is too distracting. Could work. But I don't mind, because I like this part too. Just coming off the edge, it just adds a little bit of difference happening. Same with these little bits here. But yet, this as a whole, I don't like it. It works much better in a balance as it is. So I'm going to leave that one for now. And I also want to just show you some finished pieces and why I think they are finished, or at least explain what I like about the minimal aspect of it. For example, with this one, I love the flow. I love the different gradations of it. In a sense, different values, because it's darker white, lighter, more gray. The difference in lines, the difference in negative space, the little bits that are sneaking in with the dark. And with this one, I would probably go back in and I would almost emphasize things a little bit more. Like I might take a charcoal pencil and emphasize that little bit of line coming in. And I may draw like just another line, just to change it up a bit, add a little bit more to it. Another one that I really like is this one. So simple. It really is just one stroke, and you can see it I went here, down, up, did a little dance and came around. And when you look at it just on its own, the difference in the textures is really beautiful. It brings out the texture of the paper in such simplicity. It's complex, yet it's very simple. And the shapes around are interacting with what's happening with the positive. So the positive and negative are doing this wonderful dance together. And it works various ways. The composition is really good in how it's balanced. Another one that's simple, but yet complex, is this. Again, it's probably 2 or 3 strokes in the background with complexity again, because they have that texture, the black and white, and then coming back in because the black for the composition was far too overpowering for this. And so I added a brush stroke of white underneath and followed it along to break up what was happening with the large black space. And so again with this one, you can see nice contrast happening, the balance and the flow, the lines go, but they bring your eyes back in again. And it comes over here, the balance of the different sizes and shapes of the white space works really well. This is another one that I really like. Minimal, but yet it has depth to it. Because in the background, I'm not sure if you can see it, it's white, but there's very faint lines in the background, very thin ones. And then they have different lines on top, smaller, more vibrant lines, even on top of that. So the layering and the complexity that you get is really quite interesting. And the balance, it comes, it moves, it dances on the paper. Oh, it really does come alive. It's magic to me. This is so exciting when I see things like this. And this is even another one. Very simple. This was just using the gift card and moving paint around. Minimal, adds dynamic, centered in the page, which it can be. You don't have to have everything going off the page. And then when it's framed, it can really be quite nice. And if I take something like this that I've done before, and I don't really like this as a composition, as a whole. So if I show this, I need a piece of white paper. This is far too distracting. If I'm using this, this gives you an idea of what I look at for composition. Oh, that's quite dynamic. And I like this because it flows out, it flows in, it flows around. Your eye is on a journey. It's such an exciting journey to go and experience a painting where you can see all the little bits of it. Different shapes, wide, dark, balance, harmony. And sometimes you just have to go with a gut feeling of if it feels right. Let's see if we can find any other ones. This shape I like. And is it too much on its own? Oh, see, that's too much in the middle. And these shapes start being too much the same. So if that was a composition, I wouldn't like that for me. That's more dynamic. Not as much. Let's see, how does this work? Come back to this one. That has the movement. I like this long little bit of space reacting with what's happening on it. It can actually work a few different ways. See, this I wouldn't, if I were to crop it like this, I don't like that solid shape. It's too much the same all the way down. I quite like it when it's, even though it's a linear shape here, it has some differentiation in width back and forth. So that is how I look at less is more, and how we can treat it, that we don't have to fill everything up. Even in our life, we don't have to constantly keep putting more and more onto it. We can just let things set. Just very simple. It can be one stroke. It can be one thing that you say to someone, lights them up. Just like in art, sometimes less truly is more in our lives. By simplifying, we create space for what matters most, whether that's clarity, creativity, or peace of mind. I hope this inspires you to embrace the power of less, both with art and in your everyday moments. Thank you for joining me, and if you enjoyed this, please like, comment, and subscribe. See you next time.